Hello, BookTube. This is my fourth in sort of short ongoing videos to do with science fiction, and specifically the science fiction books that I have at the moment. So it's a bit of a shelf tour, but none of these books were actually on a shelf. So, uh, it's just what I have, and then this one is the Asimov Harper Voyager paperbacks set that I purchased a couple years ago. The Robots and Foundation series. Uh, there's a few omissions that they didn't do for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I love the covers, and so I'll go through each book in the sort of chronological order that they fit in with Asimov's future history. And then at the end of the video, I'll be doing an announcement. It's a announcement for a read along that will consist of these and more. So we start out with I, Robot, which is a collection of short stories that was brought together in 1951, 52, 1950. And this has the sort of humorous stories of Powell and Donovan. And this was the first time Susan Calvin shows up. She's robotics, and she's instrumental in the the history of robotics and robots in this universe. And then Asimov followed this up with the rest of the robots, another collection of short stories. But then later again, he kept writing stories. So he this is a larger volume, and it's called The Complete Robot, but it's not quite complete because he still wrote some after this. This came out in 1982. And he wrote some after this. And I believe, if I'm quite sure that the original hardcover of this, the only hardcover edition, or the first printing of it, was the American Science Fiction Book Club. And an interesting aside is last year, I think it was last year, that the Picard series, or maybe this started in 2019, I can't remember now, but the Picard series, Star Trek, where the excuse me, the roboticist is at Picard's vineyard, and she pulls up a book, and it's the Complete Robot in the red jacketed book club edition, and she says, "Oh, you like the classics," or something along that way. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Uh, and then from there we get the Caves of Steel, which is the first R. Daniel Olva and Elijah Bailey novel. And then following on from that, we get The Naked Sun. I'm not going into the publication history of these because these are sort of in order of the chronology rather than publication. We've got The Naked Sun, which is the second one. The third Robots is The Robots of Dawn. I just love these covers. I think they're just amazing. And then Robots and Empire. And after that is the Galactic Empire series, which they didn't do in this. There's three. There's a trilogy: The Stars Like Dust, The Elements of Space, and Pebble in the Sky. Now, Asimov incorporated those into his future history with these novels and the Foundation novels that followed. And he in later editions of the Empire series, he puts in that there is a bit of chronological. It's a little out of sync, slightly, and some of the science in it is a little wonky. As well as a few of the other early books, because he was based on the science of radiation at the time, but he didn't want to change. He didn't want to rewrite them to sort of fit. And then we move on to the Foundation books. This is Prelude to Foundation. And it was followed by Forward the Foundation, which they don't have in this series for some reason. And then we get to the original Foundation trilogy. Foundation and Empire. I just love these covers. The books aren't made that well, but the covers are fabulous. Second Foundation. Foundation's Edge. And the final Foundation book, Foundation and Earth. Okay. Now, as I said, he was bringing in other novels that he did, like the Empire series. But also, too, there is a novel called Nemesis that fits before the first Dana Oliva and Elijah Bailey novel. And then the End of Eternity sort of fits in at the very end of the whole series. And there's other short stories that sort of intermingle in certain places in the history that are published in various, like his collections of gold, his early Asimov, and there was other compilations like Robot Dreams and Robot Visions, and there were individual stories that fit in with that, plus reprinting some of the other stories that are in the Robot ones, but there was a few extra new ones, hence the complete Robot is not fully complete. He also wrote a number of novelizations with Robert Silverberg. From the Bicentennial Man short story was The Positronic Man, I think, or is it Brain? Positronic Man, I think. And that does fit in there as well at the story where the Bicentennial Man story would fit in. And then also he wrote a novelization of Nightfall, the short story Nightfall. Now, somebody has written a psychohistory volume that actually brings in Nightfall, so that can be put in to the series as well. I can't remember where. I think it's after Foundation and Earth, possibly. And since then, there has been so that means there are 19 novels and short story collections that are written by Asimov that are part of his future history. And then there are those other short story bits that fit in different places. Also, there has been another 29 or 30 novels. 28 novels and a collection of short stories. The collection of short stories is Foundation's Friends. Asimov was involved with that. He was still alive. And it was sort of Greg Bear, and there was a bunch of other authors that wrote short stories in this, and they do fit in again as well in various places. After his death, the estate has licensed a number of other novels. There was in the late 90s, 97, 98, and 99, there was the second Foundation trilogy. Gregory Benford, Greg Bear, and David Brin wrote a novel each. They fit sort of in between and intermixed with the original Foundation trilogy. Now, they benefit from things revealed in the last two novels, and especially in Foundation and Earth, that you don't really know at that time when you're reading his stuff. So there's spoilers in that way for everything. And then there's a trilogy to do with Susan Calvin that was written. There are three sort of very shorter novels of three series of robots. There's Robots, Asimov's Robots Cities, I think it is, something like that. Robots and Aliens, and Robots in Time. They are very short novels, and they fit in the robot sort of history series. And then there was a trilogy that Asimov outlined and were written, like there's Caliban, Utopia, and I think of something else, and that fits in. And then there's a couple other novels. There's I think they call it the Robot Mysteries, and there's four of those. There's those three that was done by one author, and then a fourth one that was done. And there's a few other individual ones, and then somebody's recently in the past decade or two, done psychohistory. So there's basically 19 books written by Asimov that are in his future history, or that he 19 or 20, actually 20, I guess, because we can add in the Foundation's Friends. That's a collection, so that's actually 20 books that are part of the series. And if you actually that's discarding iRobot and rest of the robots and bringing in the complete robot instead. So there's 20 of those, and then there's about 29 or 30 other novels. So it's a big project. Now, when I last read this was approximately a decade ago here in the UK, and I just read through the Asimov ones, the main ones that I went through the pile here, plus the Empire trilogy. And then I found out that there were other ones written. So I did get the second Foundation trilogy and read that with mixed feelings, but it was interesting. And I did buy a bunch of these smaller robot books, the Robot Cities, the Robots in Time, and Robots and Aliens, and a couple of the other ones. And then since then, there's been a few that have been published as well, which I didn't get. Now, I bought some of those, and I can't access them at the moment, but I'm hoping in the next couple months I can get to them. Now, my project, or the read-along, is going to be, there's two sort of levels to this. There's the level that I'm going to do is I'm going to read every story, including all the other extraneous novels that have been written in Asimov's universe or future history. So I'm going to call it the Future History Project. Now, I'm going to create a list of everything in the chronological order of the universe, not when the books were written. Now, I'll be highlighting on that list the ones that are written by Asimov, and they're sort of, we can call those the canon. And then the ones outside of the canon, the ones that he sort of knew about and authorized and outlined. And so if anybody, I'm hoping that I will get other booktubers. I've already just briefly spoken to a few that seem to be interested. I don't know how much they will go into the full future history of basically 50 books and various short stories. I will be doing that. So if all you want is the canon, that's fine. You can join and just do the canon. I'm hoping that a few others will do the whole kit and caboodle of the Future History Project. So when will this start? Well, that's yet to be determined. Because in November, you've probably heard, I've mentioned it a few times, and it's others have mentioned it. The Bookish Bryants have done it's going to be a read along of short science fiction called New Worlds November, and that'll have 4 themes once a week. The first theme is time travel. I hope I got these in order. I do apologize if I missed it. Time travel, then AI/robots, post-apocalyptic, and r/dystopian, and The final one is Aliens, or Aliens could be first and Time Travel is the last. I can't remember. Sorry, but it's one. Those are the four themes that we'll do every week, and the short form. So it's short stories, novellas, novelettes, or short novels. It's items less than 250 pages, and we'll be doing each booktuber will be doing one a week. The host, I'm one of the hosts. There'll be about 14 other hosts. There will be a more official announcement with this. We'll all make an announcement and list all the booktubers that are joining in with this. So, when will I do my future history project? Well, at the earliest, it's going to be late summer. But it's yet to be determined. We might wait until after November, but because it's short form, we might start before that. But it'll be sort of after I discuss more with my fellow booktubers and fellow hosts. Then we'll get a timeline going, and I need to work on getting, as I say, the chronology and with all the stories in the books done. There's a few online, but they're hit or miss. I'm sort of going to take some information from some and information from others and sort of create my own list. And so if you're interested, please sound out in the comments whether you want to host or you want to do the read along, and I'll keep you updated, or send me an email. I'll put my email in the in the description box. My email is shawndstandfast@gmail.com, and I'll put it in Shawn D Standfast space and then the @ symbol space gmail.com. It'll be in there. So if you just want to copy and paste, if you can do that, and then just delete the spaces between the @ symbols, before the @ symbol and after, and then that'll get to me. And when we're ready, I'll have the list already, and I can email it to people. It'll also be in the official announcement. We'll put the list and the reading schedule. It's going to be a big project because, as I say, there's about 50 novels approximately. And a bunch of short stories. I'm including the short story collections as novels as well. So, but there, as I say, there's other bits and pieces of short stories. It's going to take a while to do this, but I'm sort of excited to do this because after reading it last time and I started buying some of these other robot books, I don't expect a huge amount from these, but they are fairly short, most of them. Under 200 pages, I think, or just over 200 pages, so they should be pretty quick to go through. But it'll be interesting to see the thought process that as goes through. Now, I would suggest anybody who's not read the Foundation and Asimov's robot series to maybe not read the extraneous material and just read the ones that he did, the canon ones, unless you don't care about spoilers and finding a at the end of Foundation and Earth, when there's some reveals in the final, it sort of blows open the whole universe with ideas at that point. So the only novel that's really, I don't think, unless I can find a place for it in the series, is the Gods Themselves that Asimov wrote. I'm not sure if that can be placed anywhere within the history, but we might just do that as an adjunct at the end with the End of Eternity, and just read that as an additional one, so that way we get everything, all of Asimov novels and many of the short stories. Not obviously all of his short stories, but again, this might be a thing that we can do, is continue on this, as I say, with the Gods Themselves, and to just continue on with all of Asimov's short stories. There's 2 volumes that have been put out, the complete short stories. I don't know if it actually, I gotta look to see if it actually is complete for that, but we won't go into his nonfiction books because they're into the hundreds, so we won't go there. But anyway, I'm pre-recording this, and this should go up on the 13th, and hopefully, if there's other information, I'll add in the notes that has come along since I've recorded this. I'm just getting a few things ahead, and I found the books here, so I'm going to put those somewhere. They won't get lost. Well, fingers crossed they won't get lost in my piles, because I've located them now. But I also have to get the missing volumes as well, so that gives me several months before we do this at the very least. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well, and do sound out in the comments or send me an email if you are interested in the Future History Project. Thank you, BookTube.